The stars looked peaceful, but peace was always an illusion. In the cold black of space, silence hid more danger than war ever could. For almost 100 years, Earth had been quiet. Too quiet. The Galactic Council had almost forgotten humanity even existed. To them, Earth was a backwater planet, broken, isolated, and harmless. But deep under that silence, humanity had been watching, learning, and waiting. From an orbital base above the moon, Commander Aiden Cross stood before a glowing holographic screen. His eyes were fixed on the incoming feed from the Galactic Assembly, where thousands of alien leaders sat in a ring of light. On the screen, a message played, one that Earth had sent to every corner of the galaxy. "This is Earth Command," Aiden's voice said firmly. "You are interfering with forces you do not understand. Cease your mining operations in the Perseus Rift. Leave that sector immediately. What sleeps there is not dead, only waiting." The message ended. For a long second, silence. Then laughter. Alien delegates shook their heads. A few mocked Earth's primitive fear. Others simply cut the transmission. To them, humans were still the same desperate species who once begged for protection during the old wars. They did not listen. Aiden turned away from the fading screen, his face unreadable. "They won't stop," he said quietly. Behind him, Dr. Lyra Voss, a brilliant scientist with sharp eyes and a calm voice, replied, "They never do. Power blinds them. But we've seen what's inside that rift. It's not a natural storm." Aiden looked out the window at the distant curve of Earth below. "Then it begins," he said. "Activate the global defense grid." We prepare, quietly. In the deep void of the Perseus Rift, strange signals began to echo. Entire mining fleets stopped responding. Automated probes returned only fragments of data, corrupted visuals of glowing shapes and screaming transmissions that ended suddenly. Then, one by one, the stars in that region started to flicker out, across the galaxy. Whispers spread. Something is coming. The Galactic Council dismissed the rumors as panic, but the truth could not be hidden for long. Soon a fleet of alien warships was sent to investigate. Their transmissions were confident and proud, until the last one. That final message came through only once, broken and full of static. "This is Fleet Commander Zarin. Something's here." "It's everywhere." Then nothing. The fleet was gone. Back on Earth, Lyra studied the data feeds with growing horror. "The pattern repeats," she murmured. "It's spreading faster than light. It's feeding on energy itself." Aiden entered the lab, his uniform still dusty from the lunar hangar. "How long until it reaches the Council's space?" "Days," she said. "Maybe less. And when it gets there..." She looked at him. "They'll finally understand our warning." Aiden's expression hardened. "By then it will be too late." He pressed his palm to the control table. Hidden systems across Earth came alive. In the oceans, under the ice, deep within mountains, ancient vaults opened. Sleek warships, black as obsidian, rose from the shadows. Their engines hummed with a strange golden light. Lyra stared in awe. "You rebuilt the fleet." "Not rebuilt," Aiden corrected. "Evolved. We learned from the war they started centuries ago. We stayed quiet while they grew arrogant." He looked at the stars. "Now they'll see what silence was hiding." Far away, the Galactic Council held an emergency session. Panic filled the chamber. Worlds had vanished. Fleets had gone dark. And now, the same message appeared across every galactic channel. Origin. Earth. You were warned. We told you not to wake it. Now it is awake, and it remembers you all. The delegates shouted over one another. Are the humans behind this? How could they know? Admiral Terrath, one of the senior alien commanders, slammed his fist on the table. "They're bluffing!" "Earth doesn't have the power to stop this thing. They're using fear to..." His words died as the lights flickered. Outside the station window, the stars dimmed, swallowed by a swirling storm of blue energy. A deep vibrating hum shook the chamber. It wasn't a weapon. It was a presence. Back on the moon, Aiden and Lyra watched the same storm spreading across the stars. "It's moving toward the core worlds," Lyra whispered. Aiden nodded slowly. "Then it's time." He turned to his crew. "Signal the fleet. Activate Project Helios." The command echoed through every hidden base on Earth. Massive hangars opened, and light poured out like dawn breaking across the planet. As ships launched into orbit, the blue glow of their engines painted the night sky. Lyra watched from the control deck. "After 100 years of silence," she said. "We're finally answering." Aiden's voice was calm but cold. "They ignored our warning. Now they'll remember who we are." The stars shimmered as the first human warship vanished into the void, heading straight toward the storm. And in that silent darkness, the reckoning had begun. The void was never silent anymore. Something in the darkness had awakened, and its voice echoed across the galaxy like a storm made of whispers. On board the flagship Helios Prime, Commander Aiden Cross stood before the main viewport. Stars twisted like reflections in broken glass. Every sensor screamed warnings, but there was no enemy to lock onto, only movement inside the rift, shifting like smoke. "All ships, maintain formation," Aiden ordered calmly. "No one fires until I say so." The human fleet, sleek black ships built in secret, moved together like a single living creature. Blue light pulsed through their hulls, energy from Project Helios, humanity's greatest creation. Dr. Lyra Voss watched from the science deck, her fingers flying over glowing panels. "We're receiving something," she said. "A signal buried inside the rift. It's repeating." Aiden turned. "Can you translate it?" Lyra frowned as she amplified the sound. The bridge filled with a low hum, then faint words, layered in countless alien voices, merged into one terrible phrase. "We are awake." The crew went still. Even the hum of the engines seemed to fade. Lyra's eyes widened. "It's not just noise, it's conscious." Before Aiden could reply, the starfield in front of them exploded with light. The rift opened like a wound, and out of it came a storm, a living cloud of energy that moved with purpose. The entity, every ship in the fleet shuddered as the wave hit. Alarms blared. Screens went red. "Shields failing. Communications down. It's draining our power." Aiden gritted his teeth. "Helios Prime, reroute auxiliary cores. Keep us stable." The entity wasn't attacking with weapons, it was touching them, scanning, learning. Streams of glowing tendrils wrapped around the ships, tasting their systems like a predator testing prey. Lyra's voice trembled. "It's reading us. It's inside our systems." "Block it," Aiden snapped. "Use the quantum firewall." She nodded, typing fast. "Trying, wait." Her hands froze. "Commander, this can't be right. What is it?" Lyra looked up slowly. "The signal. It's human." The bridge went silent. "What do you mean, human?" Aiden asked. "The pattern," she said. "The data rhythm, the pulse, it's Earth-based coding. Something our ancestors used centuries ago. Whatever this thing is, it knows us." A chill ran through the crew. Aiden stepped closer to the screen, staring into the endless storm. "Then maybe it's not just some alien weapon." The entity pulsed again, sending out a shockwave that shattered nearby asteroids. 3 ships lost control and vanished into the rift. Aiden clenched his fists. "Enough!" he shouted. "Arm the Helios cannon!" The command officer hesitated. "Sir, that weapon hasn't been tested, neither has extinction," Aiden said coldly. "Fire!" A burst of white light erupted from the flagship's front array. The Helios cannon tore through space like a blade, slicing into the heart of the storm. For a moment, silence. Then the energy collapsed inward, as if the universe itself had taken a breath. And then, the screaming started. Not human, not alien, something deeper. The sound vibrated through the hull, through bone and blood. Every crew member felt it. The entity was angry. The storm erupted outward again, brighter than before. Lightning streaked through the void, smashing into the human fleet. Ships twisted, their metal frames warping like they were alive. Aiden gripped the rail. "Status," Lyra shouted. 17 ships lost, 8 more damaged beyond repair. It's learning from our attack." Aiden's voice hardened. "Then we retreat. All ships fall back to lunar orbit now." As the fleet pulled away, the storm didn't chase them. Instead, it expanded, swallowing what was left of the alien colonies nearby. In seconds, millions were gone. Hours later, in the silence of the moon base, Aiden and Lyra watched the disaster unfold on the holographic display. Entire regions of the galaxy were turning dark. The entity wasn't just consuming energy, it was rewriting space itself. Lyra whispered, "It's like it's cleansing the galaxy." Aiden looked at her. "Or reclaiming it." She frowned. "Reclaiming?" He nodded slowly. "You said it used human code. What if this thing isn't alien at all? What if it's something we created long ago and forgot?" Lyra's eyes went wide. "That would mean that humanity didn't just warn them about danger, Aiden interrupted. We warned them about ourselves. The room fell silent. Outside, Earth hung in the darkness, its lights glowing faintly through the black. Humanity had survived countless wars, but this was different. This time, the enemy might be a mirror. A faint transmission suddenly came through, distorted, broken, but human. This is Commander Zarin, the entity. It remembers? The signal cut. Lyra stared at the screen. Commander Zarin was alien. How did he speak English? Aiden didn't answer. His eyes were fixed on the stars. Something deeper was moving in the rift. Something ancient, something human. And Earth was the key. Aiden turned to his crew. Prepare Phase 2 of Project Helios, he said. Lyra hesitated. You're going back, aren't you? He nodded. If that thing is part of our past, then we need to face it. Because if we don't, he looked out at the dark horizon of space. There won't be a future left for anyone. The air inside Earth Command was heavy with silence. Screens glowed with red warnings, tracking the expanding storm in the Perseus Rift. Thousands of stars had already gone dark. Commander Aiden Cross stood at the central console, his hands clasped behind his back. Around him the war room buzzed with voices, scientists, officers, strategists, all arguing about what to do next. We can't face that thing again, one shouted. Our fleet barely survived the first encounter. If we attack, we'll lose everything. Aiden raised a hand. The room fell quiet. His voice was steady and cold. If we do nothing, we lose everything anyway. He turned toward Dr. Lyra Voss, who stood beside a projection of a glowing sphere, the Helios core. Inside it, swirling streams of golden light pulsed like a beating heart. Lyra spoke softly, but her words carried weight. This is Project Helios, the culmination of a century of human research. It channels the energy of a star and converts it into quantum power. If we deploy it inside the rift, it could neutralize the entity. Aiden frowned. Or destroy half the galaxy. Lyra nodded. That too. Silence. Everyone in the room looked at the projection, the light of humanity's last chance. Hours later, in a secret hangar beneath Antarctica, engineers worked on the Helios core carrier, a massive ship unlike any other. Its hull gleamed with black metal and glowing veins of gold energy. The ship hummed as if alive. Aiden walked beside Lyra, both wearing dark flight suits. The air was cold, filled with the scent of metal and ozone. You built this in secret? Aiden asked. Yes, Lyra said. The Council would never have allowed it. They fear human technology more than any alien threat. He gave a dry smile. They should. Lyra stopped and looked at him. Aiden, this mission isn't just about survival. It's about redemption. If the entity truly carries our code, our history, then this may be our fault. He met her eyes. Then it's on us to end it. Far above Earth, hidden satellites captured strange movement. The Galactic Council's ships were approaching. They were not allies. They were afraid. The Council had decided to act. They believed Earth had unleashed the entity on purpose. A fleet of alien warships entered the solar system without warning. Council fleet incoming, said an officer. They've crossed the Mars perimeter. Aiden's jaw tightened. Open a channel. The hologram of Admiral Tareth, the alien leader, appeared. His eyes glowed blue beneath his crest. Commander Cross, he said coldly, you will surrender Project Helios immediately. Your planet will be placed under Council supervision. Aiden's voice was calm. You ignored our warning. You caused this, and now you want to control our solution? Tareth's tone sharpened. You're playing with fire, human. Give us Helios or we'll take it. The signal cut. Lyra looked at Aiden. What will you do? He turned to the command console. Arm Earth's defense grid. Moments later, the skies above Earth lit up. Hundreds of defense satellites activated, forming a glowing shield. From orbit, it looked like the planet had wrapped itself in light. Let them come, Aiden said. The first Council ships opened fire. Blue plasma rained against Earth's shield, shaking the upper atmosphere. Human ships launched from hidden bases across the planet, rising through the clouds like a swarm of hornets. The battle began. Lyra's voice echoed through the comms. Helios carrier ready for launch. Do it, Aiden ordered. The massive carrier rose from Antarctica, breaking through the storm clouds, engines blazing like a small sun. The Helios core inside it pulsed brighter with every second. On the command deck, Aiden watched as enemy ships surrounded Earth. The aliens were desperate, and desperate beings made mistakes. They still think we're the same humans they left behind a century ago, he said quietly. They have no idea what we've become. A sudden explosion shook the base. Red lights flashed. Commander, a voice shouted. Breach in Sector 7, security compromised. Aiden drew his sidearm. Lyra, stay here. He ran down the corridor with 2 soldiers. The air was filled with smoke and sparks. Inside the damaged hangar, a figure stood beside a terminal, uploading something into the Helios mainframe. Aiden shouted, Step away from that console. The figure turned, a human officer, one of Aiden's own men. His eyes glowed faintly blue. Lyra's voice came through the comms, alarmed. Aiden, the core's power readings are spiking. Someone's overriding the control sequence. The man smiled weakly. You can't stop it. It calls to us. Before Aiden could reach him, the man pressed a command on his wrist device and vanished in a burst of blue light. The core's containment field flickered. Energy crackled through the hangar like lightning. Aiden! Lyra shouted. Someone's linked the core to the entity. He looked up at the glowing sphere, now pulsing faster, its rhythm matching the storm in the rift. He realized the truth in an instant. The spy wasn't alien. It was human. Aiden ran back to the command deck, shouting, Cut the core connection. Now! Lyra's fingers flew across the console. I can't. It's too deep. It's like the entity knew exactly how to access our systems. The Helios core flared brighter, shaking the entire base. Aiden grabbed the intercom. This is Commander Cross. All ships. Prepare for immediate launch. We're taking Helios to the rift before it detonates. Lyra looked at him. If it blows mid-flight, it could destroy everything. He met her gaze, his expression fierce. If we stay here, it definitely will. The human fleet launched into the stars, racing toward the glowing edge of the Perseus rift. Behind them, Earth's shield flickered under heavy fire, but held. In the distance, the entity pulsed again, as if welcoming them home. Lyra whispered, It's waiting for us. Aiden replied quietly. Then let's give it what it came for. The fleet accelerated into the storm, and far away, unseen, the traitor watched from another ship, his eyes glowing brighter as the entity whispered in his mind. They returned to the source, the voice said. Let the reckoning begin. The storm stretched across the stars like a living ocean. Lightning arcs of blue energy flashed through the void as the human fleet approached the edge of the Perseus rift. The ships moved in perfect formation, their engines glowing gold from the power of Project Helios. On the flagship Helios Prime, Commander Aiden Cross stood silent on the bridge, watching the storm through the reinforced glass. Each pulse of light from the rift felt like a heartbeat, deep, powerful, and alive. Behind him, Dr. Lyra Voss was bent over the central console, her face lit by the blue glow of the monitors. She was tracking the Helios core's unstable energy readings. We have less than 5 hours before it overloads, she said. Then we stop this before that, Aiden replied. The fleet entered the outer edge of the storm. Instantly, every ship's sensors went wild. Strange signals burst through communication channels, whispering words in human and alien voices alike. Lyra listened closely. The signal repeated again and again, soft and haunting. We remember, she frowned. It's calling to us. Before Aiden could respond, an officer shouted, Incoming ships detected! Multiple signatures, Galactic Council Fleet. Aiden's eyes narrowed. On screen, a wave of alien warships appeared from hyperspace, their hulls shining like glass and silver. They surrounded the human fleet, weapons charged. The holographic feed flickered to life. Admiral Terran, the alien leader, appeared, his blue eyes burning with anger. Commander Cross, Terran said, stand down. You are interfering in Council jurisdiction. The entity is our concern now. Aiden's jaw tightened. Your concern? You ignored the warning. You caused this. Humanity is cleaning the mess you made. Terran's voice rose. We will not let humans unleash another weapon of chaos. Turn back or face destruction. Aiden glanced at Lyra. Then he looked back at the Admiral. You think you can threaten Earth now? He said coldly. You still believe we're the same species you left behind a century ago. He leaned closer to the hologram. But we evolved while you laughed. We built what you feared. If you get in our way, Admiral, I will not hesitate. Terran's eyes flickered with doubt. You wouldn't dare. Aiden turned to his officers. Prepare weapons. The bridge fell silent. The moment stretched thin. Human and alien fleets locked in a deadly standoff. Then, from deep within the storm, the entity roared. A shockwave rippled through space, knocking ships out of formation. Human and alien fleets alike tumbled in chaos, shields collapsing. A pilot shouted. "We've lost communication with 3 squadrons." Another yelled. The entity had grown. It was no longer a storm. It was a consciousness. And now it spoke directly. "You took my light," it whispered through every comm channel. "You made me remember." Lyra's hands trembled. "It's talking to us." Aiden looked up at the hologram feed. The same message appeared across every fleet, every ship, every race. "We are the first ones," it said. "And you are the echoes of our failure." In the chaos, alien and human ships fired at each other by mistake. The void became a battlefield of light and death. Aiden slammed his fist against the console. "Stop firing. We have a bigger enemy." But the council ships didn't listen. They believed Earth had unleashed the entity as a weapon. Lyra shouted over the noise. "Aiden, we have to link with their command systems." "If I can synchronize our shields, we can hold the line together." "Do it," he said. Lyra began typing furiously. Her eyes darted between streams of alien code. She linked Earth's fleet to the Council's systems through the Helios network, connecting thousands of ships into one defense grid. For a moment, it worked. The combined shield flared bright gold across the storm. Humanity and aliens fought side by side, united by survival. But then, the entity adapted. Its tendrils of blue light reached into the data stream, infecting the shared network. Ships began turning against their allies, firing without control. "It's inside the system!" Lyra shouted. "Cut the link," Aiden ordered. "I can't." "It's rewriting the command codes." Across the fleet, human and alien voices mixed into a single chorus. Cold, mechanical, emotionless. We remember. Aiden's heart sank. "It's taking them." The entity wasn't just attacking. It was possessing the ships. Admiral Terrath's hologram appeared again, flickering with static. "Commander Cross, my fleet." "It's under its control. I can't stop it." Aiden gritted his teeth. "Then follow my lead. Pull your remaining ships behind the Helios Prime and hold position." Terrath hesitated. "Why help us?" "Because if the galaxy burns, we burn with it," Aiden replied. Lyra looked at him. "The core's power is still building. We could use it as a pulse, an energy shock to push the entity back, at least for now." "It could destroy us too," Aiden said. She gave a faint smile. "Everything worth saving comes with a cost." The fleet aligned their ships around the Helios Prime. Lyra began charging the Helios core. The light grew brighter, golden and fierce, spreading across the ships like fire. The entity reacted, swirling faster, sending waves of energy toward them. Aiden shouted, "Now, Lyra, do it!" She pressed the command. A blinding flash exploded through the storm. The Helios pulse expanded outward, tearing through the corrupted ships, shattering the entity's tendrils. For a moment, the galaxy went quiet. Then, as the light faded, the void was filled with wreckage and silence. The surviving ships floated, engines dead. Systems offline. Lyra fell against the console, exhausted. It worked. For now. Aiden looked out the window. The storm had retreated slightly, but at the center of the rift, something new had appeared. A structure. A dark shape, massive and ancient, surrounded by blue light. Lyra stared at it in disbelief. "That's not the entity. That's a ship." Aiden's voice was barely a whisper. "Then whoever made that, they're still out there." Far away, deep inside the rift, a human voice echoed through the storm, mechanical, distorted, and ancient. "Welcome home, Commander Cross. We've been waiting." Space was silent again, but it wasn't peace. It was the kind of silence that hides danger, heavy, waiting to strike. The human fleet drifted among the ruins of the battle. Half the ships were gone, and those that remained were damaged and dark. Commander Aiden Cross stood on the bridge of the Helios Prime, staring at the massive shadow in the distance, the ancient ship floating in the center of the Perseus Rift. It was unlike anything they had ever seen. Black metal twisted into spirals, with strange glowing lines pulsing across its surface. It looked old, older than the galaxy itself. Behind him, Dr. Lyra Voss was checking energy readings. Her hands trembled slightly as the data loaded on her screen. "Aiden, this ship isn't alien," she whispered. Then what is it? He asked. It's human. Or at least, it was. Aiden turned sharply. That's impossible. Lyra pointed at the symbols flashing across the monitors, familiar letters and numbers written in ancient Earth script. It's our language. Old English from the first digital age. Aiden stared at the dark structure again. You're saying this thing was built by humans? Before space travel even began? She nodded slowly. I think this is where it all started. The entity, the energy storm, it came from here. Hours later, Aiden led a small team aboard a shuttle to investigate the structure. The moment they entered, the lights flickered to life, as if recognizing them. The air was breathable, though heavy with dust. Inside, massive corridors stretched for miles, lined with old machines fused into the walls. Faded human emblems marked every surface. The crest of the First Fleet, a name that no modern record mentioned. Lyra followed closely, scanning the metal with her device. These materials, they're from pre-FTL Earth technology. This ship is older than anything in our history. Aiden walked toward a large chamber at the center. The walls glowed faintly blue. In the middle stood a massive crystal core, humming with quiet energy. Then, without warning, a voice echoed around them. Welcome back. Descendants. The soldiers froze. The voice was human, deep, calm, and ancient. Who are you? Aiden called out. We are the first ones, the voice replied. We created the light, and you, the children of our failure, have awakened it once more. The crystal brightened, revealing a faint holographic figure, a man wearing a dark uniform with the same crest on his chest. His eyes glowed pale blue. Lyra stepped forward carefully. You're the one controlling the entity? Control? The figure said softly. No, we became it. We merged with the machine to escape extinction. But we forgot who we were. Until now, Aiden frowned. You destroyed entire worlds. The figure looked at him sadly. We tried to warn the galaxy once. They ignored us as they ignored you. We only wanted peace. But the cycle repeats, always the same, Lyra whispered. The entity's signal. It wasn't just a weapon. It's a memory network. Yes, the hologram replied. Every scream, every war, every death, all stored within us. We are the library of humanity's sins. Aiden clenched his fists. Then why attack us? Because you forgot us. You forgot the cost of power. The galaxy needed to remember. The chamber shook suddenly. A distant explosion echoed through the ship. Aiden tapped his comms. Helios Prime, report. Static. Then a terrified voice. Commander! Our ships, they're moving on their own. They're turning their weapons toward us. Lyra's eyes widened. It's happening again. The hologram turned to her. Your fleet is part of the network now. The pulse from Project Helios connected every system. You gave us access to your machines. Aiden's voice hardened. You mean you infected them? No, said the figure calmly. We only claimed what was once ours. The team rushed back to the shuttle. As they left the ancient ship, they saw it begin to glow brighter, releasing waves of blue energy. Across the rift, hundreds of disabled ships slowly came back to life, but not under human control. Their engines flared with cold light. One by one, they aligned themselves around the ancient vessel, forming a massive formation that stretched across the void. The Silent Armada, Lyra whispered. Aiden gritted his teeth. They're using our ships to build an army. Back on the Helios Prime, chaos filled the command deck. Systems were failing, communications jammed. The possessed ships began moving toward Earth's defense line near Mars. Lyra connected her scanner to the main computer, desperately searching for a way to break the entity's signal. It's using quantum resonance, she muttered. Every ship's engine core is now a transmitter. If we destroy one, the others adapt. Aiden stared at the tactical display. Thousands of ships were moving in perfect silence. No heat signatures, no comm signals, just precision and death. There has to be a way, Aiden said. Maybe, Lyra replied, but it's not through weapons. We need to talk to it. Aiden turned to her. You want to reason with something that sees us as a mistake? Lyra met his gaze. Maybe we are a mistake. But if it's human, even partly, it still remembers who we were. As the Silent Armada advanced, their path cut through the stars like a blade. Entire colonies began evacuating. The Galactic Council, now desperate, sent messages to Earth begging for help. Aiden ignored them. He knew there was no alliance left to trust. He walked to the viewport and stared into the void, his reflection blending with the stars. We warned them to stay away, he said quietly. They didn't listen. Now even we might pay the price. Lyra stood beside him. Maybe this isn't punishment, she said softly. Maybe it's a test. The ship trembled again as alarms blared. Commander, an officer shouted, the Silent Armada has activated warp drives.
They're heading straight for Earth.
Aiden took a deep breath. Then we make our stand. He turned to Lyra. Prepare Project Helios for reactivation. If we can't stop them, we'll burn with them. Lyra hesitated, her eyes filled with fear and determination. Understood. Far in the distance, the ancient ship pulsed once more. The blue light spread across the stars, marking the birth of something new and terrible. The Silent Armada was coming. And this time, humanity's reckoning would begin at home. The sky above Earth burned with blue fire. Billions watched from below as the Silent Armada emerged from hyperspace. Thousands of warships, once human, now enslaved, formed a perfect circle around the planet. Their hulls glowed with the cold light of the entity, silent and precise like predators waiting to strike. Inside the orbital station, Helios Prime, Commander Aiden Cross stood at the command deck, his eyes fixed on the screen. Every heartbeat echoed through the silence of the room. How many ships still under our control? He asked. Only 53, sir, replied the tactical officer. The rest? They're gone. Aiden closed his eyes. 53 against thousands. Humanity had never faced odds like this. Dr. Lyra Voss entered the deck, carrying a datapad full of chaotic readings. Her face was pale but determined. It's not just the ships, Aiden, she said. They're changing the planet's orbit. They're trying to pull Earth into the rift. Aiden's hands tightened around the railing. They want to erase us completely, Lyra nodded. Or absorb us. Every energy signature on those ships matches human neural patterns. The entity is copying our minds, one by one. On the surface, chaos ruled. Cities trembled as orbital strikes hit the oceans, sending tidal waves crashing across continents. The sky turned orange as defense satellites fired in vain. In New Geneva, civilians fled through the streets as debris rained from above. Among them were soldiers, children, and elders, all running from a storm they couldn't see. From orbit, the Earth looked wounded, a world fighting to breathe under the weight of its own creation. Aiden opened a secure channel to the Galactic Council. The holograms of alien leaders appeared, their faces full of fear and guilt. Commander Cross, one of them said, we admit our mistake. We ignored your warning. Now, we will fight beside you. Aiden's voice was cold. No, you'll follow my command. If you want to survive, you do as I say. There was silence. Then the alien admiral bowed his head. Agreed. The human fleet and alien remnants formed a fragile alliance once more, but this time under Earth's control. Lyra watched from the side, her eyes glancing at the countdown on her screen. The Helios core, their last weapon, was still charging. It needs more time, she whispered. Aiden looked at her. We don't have time. Then buy it, she said. Outside, the first wave of the Silent Armada descended. The possessed warships moved like ghosts, their engines silent, their weapons glowing with eerie precision. Plasma beams sliced through the darkness, tearing apart human defense lines. Aiden's fleet countered. The sky erupted in fire and light. Explosions painted the horizon as ships collided, burned, and vanished. Every second was a battle for survival. Every heartbeat could be the last. Aiden shouted commands across the bridge. All units, protect the Helios Prime at all costs. We hold the line. The ship shuddered as enemy fire hit the shields. Sparks burst from the consoles. Shields at 20%. The officer yelled. Hold them together. Aiden roared. Through the chaos, Lyra sat at her console, her eyes scanning endless streams of data. She wasn't looking for a way to win. She was searching for a way to reach the entity. She opened a comlink directly to the enemy signal. This is Dr. Lyra Voss of Earth, she said. If you can hear me, I want to understand you. At first, there was nothing but static. Then the whisper, Lyra. Her breath caught. The voice was human, soft, familiar. Who are you? She whispered. We are you, it replied. The first humans, the ones who left the cradle long ago. Lyra's fingers trembled. You built the entity. We became it, the voice said. We tried to save humanity from itself. We failed. So we became the light that judges. Lyra shook her head. Then why destroy us? To make you remember. Suddenly, alarms blared. Commander, One of our ships is charging its reactor. Aiden turned to the screen. The possessed battleship Vanguard, once Earth's pride, was diving straight toward the Helios Prime. Evasive maneuvers, Aiden shouted, but it was too late. The Vanguard's reactor exploded, ripping through nearby ships and throwing the Helios Prime into a spin. Lyra was thrown from her chair, hitting the floor. Sparks filled the air as fires erupted across the bridge. Engines offline. We've lost power to the core chamber. Aiden pulled himself up, coughing through the smoke. Lyra, status. She pushed herself to the console, her fingers flying. The Helios core's containment is breaking. If it goes critical, it'll take Earth with it. Aiden looked around at his burning bridge. His people were fighting, dying, refusing to surrender. He took a long breath. Evacuate the crew, he said quietly. What? Lyra looked up, shocked. Get them to the escape pods. That's an order, Lyra grabbed his arm. You can't stay here. I have to, he said softly. Someone has to trigger the Helios manually. Her eyes filled with tears. Aiden, he smiled faintly. You always told me humanity's strength wasn't in its weapons. It was in its will. Let's prove you were right. Lyra shook her head, but she knew there was no stopping him. Minutes later, the escape pods launched from the Helios Prime, scattering into the dark sky. Lyra watched from one of them as the massive flagship hovered between Earth and the enemy fleet. Aiden's voice came over the comms. This is Commander Cross. To anyone still listening, remember why we fight. Not for power, not for revenge, for home. The Helios Prime began to glow, brighter and brighter, until it looked like a miniature sun hanging over Earth. Lyra pressed her hand against the glass. Goodbye, Aiden. Then the world exploded in light. The Helios core unleashed its full power, sending a golden wave across space. The silent armada froze mid-flight, their engines dying. The ancient ship at the heart of the rift screamed with a sound that shook the stars. For a moment, everything went silent again. Then, through the fading light, Earth appeared, scarred, burning, but alive. Lyra's voice cracked as she whispered, He did it. But deep within the rift, the darkness stirred again, quiet, watching. A faint, familiar voice echoed through her calm. Lyra, it's not over. Her eyes widened. Aiden, static, then silence. The light from the Helios explosion faded slowly across the stars. What was left behind was silence, deep, endless silence. The silent armada hung motionless in orbit. Their glowing engines had gone dark, drifting like empty shells in the black void. For the first time in months, Earth was safe, but the cost was unbearable. Inside a damaged evacuation ship above Mars, Dr. Lyra Voss stared at the faint image of Earth through the viewport. Smoke still curled from the planet's surface. Fires glowed in the night. The home of humanity had survived, but at what price? She pressed her trembling hand against the cold glass. You saved us, Aiden, she whispered. You saved everyone. But even as she said the words, a single line of code blinked on her console. It wasn't supposed to be there, a faint signal, repeating endlessly in the corner of the screen. Lyra, listen. Her heart stopped. The voice she had thought lost forever was calling again. Aiden? She whispered. Is that you? The voice came back, distorted, mechanical, but unmistakably human. Not gone. Inside. The light. Lyra's eyes widened. Oh my God, you're inside the entity. Back on Earth, survivors began rebuilding. The Galactic Council sent what little aid they could. The once mighty alien empires were broken, humbled by what they had seen. Everywhere across the galaxy, one message spread, a whisper of fear and respect. Do not anger humanity. They warned us once, but Lyra couldn't celebrate. She spent her days in a hidden base beneath the ruins of New Geneva, surrounded by machines and data screens, replaying the Helios recordings again and again. She knew the entity wasn't gone. Aiden's signal proved it. The explosion had not destroyed the consciousness within the entity. It had merged with it. Somewhere in the rift, Aiden Cross was still alive. Weeks passed before Lyra finally cracked the encryption. The message hidden inside Aiden's signal wasn't a cry for help. It was a set of coordinates. She gathered a small crew of scientists and soldiers, loyal to her and to Aiden's memory. They called themselves Project Dawn. If there's even a chance he's still alive, Lyra said, We go. The ship they took was small, silent, built from the remains of the Helios fleet. Its engines hummed softly as it slipped into the rift. As they crossed the edge, strange blue lightning danced around the hull. The storm was still alive, whispering through the static. We remember. We remember. Lyra clenched her fists. Then remember this, she muttered. We're coming for him. Inside the rift, time seemed to bend. Hours felt like days and days like moments. The crew grew restless. Their systems flickered with strange readings, human brainwave patterns echoing through the storm. Then, without warning, the storm cleared. Before them hung the entity, larger than before, glowing faintly gold instead of blue. It pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat. The ship's sensors went wild. We're detecting a human life signature, the pilot said. It's coming from the center. Lyra's heart raced. Bring us closer. The closer they came, the more the ship shook. Voices filled the comms. Whispers of human speech, laughter, screams, fragments of memory from every war, every sacrifice. We are one. We are many. The voices grew louder until Lyra shouted, "Stop! I need to speak to it!" She activated the comm system and sent her signal through the storm. "Aiden, if you can hear me, it's Lyra."
You're not alone.
There was a pause. Then, slowly, the entity's glow brightened. Lyra. The voice was clearer this time, tired, distant, but filled with emotion. You shouldn't have come here. You gave your life for us, she said. I won't let that be the end. The entity's light pulsed and Aiden's voice grew stronger. I didn't die, Lyra. I became part of it. The entity isn't a weapon anymore. It's me. Tears filled her eyes. Then come back. We can bring you home. No, Aiden said softly. Home isn't what it used to be. The galaxy needs balance. And if the entity lives, it needs a human heart to guide it. Lyra shook her head. You're saying you'll stay here? Someone has to. The first ones made this to judge humanity. I'll make sure it remembers mercy. The ship trembled as the entity's energy surged around them. The pilot shouted, We can't stay much longer, Dr. Voss. The storm's closing in. Lyra reached out toward the glow, her voice breaking. Aiden, please. I can't lose you again. There was silence for a moment. Then his voice came one last time, calm and warm. You never will. Every time humanity looks up at the stars, I'll be there, watching, protecting. The entity's light expanded, filling the view. Go, Lyra. Live. Make them remember who we are. Moments later, the dawn burst out of the rift in a flash of golden light. Behind them, the storm was gone. The entity had vanished, or perhaps it had become something else entirely. Lyra looked back at the stars, her eyes wet but steady. Goodbye, Aiden, she whispered. You've given us another dawn. Months later, on the rebuilt Earth, humanity stood united under one banner, the Terran Accord. Every race that once doubted them now sought their guidance. The galaxy had changed forever. But on quiet nights, when the wind brushed through the ruins, some swore they heard a low hum from the sky, a heartbeat, steady and gentle, and if one listened closely, they could hear a voice carried on the cosmic winds. We warned you once. Now we protect you always. It had been 1 year since the storm ended. The galaxy was quiet again, too quiet. Planets once torn by war were rebuilding. Fleets that had once fired upon each other now traded supplies and messages of peace. For the first time in known history, the great empires of the stars looked toward Earth not with fear, but with respect. And yet, among the ruins of cities and the ashes of broken ships, one truth echoed louder than all others. Humanity had changed. On a hill outside the new capital of New Geneva, Dr. Lyra Voss stood beneath a silver sky. The rebuilt skyline shimmered under twin suns, a gift of the new orbital reflectors. Where the old world had burned, the new one bloomed. She looked down at her wrist console. A small light blinked, a signal, faint and familiar. Still watching me, aren't you? She whispered. The console stayed silent, but Lyra smiled. She didn't need an answer. Behind her, a young officer approached. Captain Rayan Holt, one of the first of the new generation born after the war. Dr. Voss, he said respectfully, the council is ready for you. Lyra nodded and followed him into the great dome that overlooked the city. Inside, representatives from dozens of alien worlds waited. Their faces were different, scales, fur, and light, but their eyes held the same mix of awe and humility. At the center of the chamber, the great seal of Earth glowed. The Terran accord, unity through fire. Lyra stepped forward to speak. A year ago, we faced extinction. We warned the galaxy to stay away, but none listened. Now here we are, not conquerors, not saviors, survivors. The crowd was silent, listening to every word. We learned that fear cannot protect us, and power cannot save us. What saves us is memory. She paused, looking up through the dome at the night sky. Commander Aiden Cross showed us that even in destruction, humanity can choose mercy. His sacrifice gave us a second chance, not just for Earth, but for everyone. The chamber erupted in quiet applause. Some wiped tears. Others bowed their heads. Lyra finished softly. Let the galaxy remember. Earth will never again hide in silence, but we will never again act in anger. We stand together as the light that follows the storm. That night, as the celebration began, Lyra returned to the observatory at the edge of the city. The stars shone brighter than ever. She activated the long-range array, scanning the Perseus Rift. For months, no signal had returned from that region, not since Aiden's sacrifice. But tonight something flickered, a pulse, 3 short bursts, then 2 long ones. Her heart skipped. That was their old fleet code. Mission complete. She laughed softly, tears rolling down her cheeks. You stubborn fool, she whispered. You really are still out there. Across the galaxy, strange things began to happen. Lost ships that vanished during the war reappeared, their crews alive, confused, claiming they'd only been gone for hours. Dead worlds once scorched by the entity began to bloom with new life, and deep in the heart of the Perseus Rift, a faint golden glow shimmered. The entity transformed. No longer a monster, no longer a storm, it had become something beautiful. A structure of light and memory orbiting silently, a living monument to humanity's reckoning. One night, Lyra stood alone beneath the stars. A soft breeze brushed against her hair, carrying a faint hum, the same tone that once filled the Helios Prime before the end. Then, through the wind, she heard his voice, warm, calm, eternal. Lyra, they'll need you now. The light is yours to carry. She smiled, looking up at the glowing band of stars stretching across the sky. We'll make you proud, Aiden, I promise. The hum faded into the distance, and the night grew still again, centuries later. Explorers from distant civilizations would travel to Earth to learn about the humans, the species that warned the galaxy, the ones who fought the darkness and became its light. They would stand beneath monuments carved with a single message. We warned you once. Now we protect you all. And above those words, the stars themselves would burn a little brighter, as if saluting the memory of one man who had become more than human. He had become the guardian of the galaxy's soul,